Guys ready? Come on out. Come on. Oh. I have a partnership with my dogs. They allow me to go to places that I might not be able to go to alone. They're my guides, and we have found and explored some amazing places together. I have to be outside. That's where I go. A lot of people do find inspiration in their studio or interior spaces or what have you, but the magic happens for me when I'm out there walking my dogs in beautiful places. My name is Jeanne Simmons. I am an environmental artist. I live in Port Townsend, Washington, where I am surrounded by the beaches, fields, and woods that provide me with the inspiration and materials for my work. I grew up in coastal New Hampshire, and it was a beautiful natural environment for my siblings and I to explore, along with a crew of wild neighborhood kids. I did a year of college, and then I traveled in Europe for a year when I was 19. So I was going to the Louvre and the Pompidou Center, and I was meeting a lot of artists, and it seemed to me that artists were the most interesting people, and I wanted to be one. And I don't know why or where that came from. I just know that that seemed to be the highest calling for me. And eventually felt confident enough to apply to art school. And that was life-changing. I mean, I realized that it was working in 3 dimensions that was the most satisfying for me. I became a sculpture major, and I found something very special. When I graduated in '91, I had the good fortune to be accepted to the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture in Skowhegan, Maine. Went there and kind of got my mind blown. There were some world-class artists. The teachers there were all from New York City. I withered. It was a lot. But then really found my voice and made a few things that were really special. I think that I really channeled my creativity into raising my son and then of course my daughter, who came along about 7 years later. I loved being a mom, and kind of gave up for a time on the idea of being a fine artist, and that was heartbreaking. But I thought maybe it wasn't going to happen for me. So I enrolled in graduate school actually to get my master's in library science. And almost as soon as I did that, this impulse to create a project in nature came to me. And it involved going out into a beautiful field here in Port Townsend with a friend of mine, Nicole Larson, who is a lovely naturalist and maker herself. And I guess my impulse was to just cocoon her in the tall grass as best as I could. What we made that day in the field changed my life. It was crazy. And it just kind of just went out there into the world, and there was a lot of interest, criticism, and curiosity, I think, about the piece. And my work was born from that experience of cultivating this close rapport with the natural world, which is very sacred to me. Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky in the last 8 years or so to have a few successes that have felt great. I've contributed work to some books, quite a few international publications, journals and magazines. You know, I've had a few museum shows. Currently I have a show at the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art, and for the first time created a site-specific installation. That was an interesting challenge, and I really enjoyed that. There's definitely grief in the work. You don't get to my age without having experienced loss, and all of us have or will, some worse than others, and grief is definitely there for me in my work. Some pieces very explicitly is there, so. This spot in particular has always just been very moving for me. It's almost like, to me, like a cathedral, or I don't know. It's a special spot, a special tree. It's a fir tree and this enormous root system. And I did do a project here in the spring called Kriya, and brought a bunch of other roots down that I harvested from somebody's wood pile, embedded her into this place. It's just so special. It's crazy. My models are my friends, women I know, and I would say they all have a very close rapport with the natural world as well. So it's a very harmonic experience when we go out there together. We'll try some different arrangements of fabrics and positioning, and really not as much skin as I usually ask of you to show. Yes. I guess that these pieces for me are ways of showing that humans can, have a harmonious relationship with the natural world. And so I love being able to offer that perspective that you can sit or lie down on the ground and be relaxed. And in fact, it may offer you something that could be very healing or even life-changing. You are welcome to borrow it anytime. We'll see if I ruin it today on the wood. Oh, love. It does feel important to me to say, while I do work with natural materials and I work in the natural world, I don't work with anything that anyone would feel is precious. My entire ethos is do no harm, I'm trying to elevate the natural world, not do any damage to it. So any of my materials that you might see in my work, I've foraged for. The bark for that quilt all came out of friends' wood piles and from the many logs washed up on the beach here in the Sound. I was just, walking through here with my dogs. I think it was my dogs who kind of showed it to me. They're climbing right over it right now. This kind of stopped me in my tracks, like, wow, really looks like a female form. I didn't think it would be enough to just put a woman in there. I think that was the major obstacle. I wanted more of a sculptural experience. So adding those limbs to the tree kind of made it pop for me. Anyway, it turned out to be a really special piece. Ultimately, it's an act of love, this work. I think when you truly love something, you want to express it somehow. And so this is an expression of my love and my respect for my environment. And I hope that it might inspire other people to reflect on their own relationship with the natural world, and perhaps even inspire people to develop a closer rapport with it.